This is the bore that the distributor drive gear or oil pump drive gear came out of. That bore is where this came from. That's ridiculous. Let's go take a look. Welcome back to the channel. I have regrouped, licked my wounds, and cleaned a little bit. We're still pretty messy in here, but we're back on the little 1800cc. I don't know how many inches of cubes that is, but it's small. We're back on the 4-cylinder here out of the MGB 1974, and we're gonna do a quick little look into determine whether or not we think this block will live on. This is a low miles car again, and we'd really like to keep it original. But cam bearings are beautiful, main and rod bearings are beautiful, the crankshaft is beautiful, pistons gunky, but I think savable. The biggest problem we had is we had 4 lifters stuck into bores, rusty, and then we had cylinders that were stuck piston-wise. Now the cylinders weren't near as stuck as we thought, because the main issue we had with stuckness involved this little area and down where the oil pump shaft mates up to the camshaft. That whole bunch of stuff was just nasty. I still haven't quite cleaned this side up. This is the bottom output of the oil pump, and yeah, it's bad. So the first thing we're gonna do, I think, this oil pump shaft, even though that's the worst part of the yuckiness, it doesn't matter a whole lot. It just has to center down here is important, where the bottom of the oil pump drive shaft, for lack of a better term, goes into the block, and that's clean. You can see it here, but the rest of this just locates everything else. Now we also have a really nasty looking distributor drive gear, and it goes in from this side at the distributor and then also engages the camshaft, and it's a little worse for wear, but, and I don't know, yeah, see, that side's supposed to spin in the block. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that goes. This could be our hang up right here. This guy comes in and there's a cavity in the block that bottoms out, and this sits and spins. But first, we're gonna check our lifter bores, and then we're gonna check our cylinders, and we'll go from there. Now, I was at the freight harbor just yesterday getting some stuff, and I bought some of these wire brushes, and I just cut the little hoop off the end of the handle, chuck it up in a drill, and we're concentrating on the last 4 here. See what that looks like. That can's empty. You know what? They're cleaning up nice, you guys. Do a little bit more and see what happens here. Oh golly. Those look really good. You know, and we're not honing, we're just cleaning here. That's all we're doing. We got a brass brush. It's not, shouldn't be nearly as hard as the cast iron and the lifters. We're going to take one of the cleaner lifters that we pulled out with a magnet. And now we're not using these. We're going to get a new cam and lifters regardless. But let's put just a little bit of lubricant on here. Now just pushing it with my finger, I can spin it and everything, you guys. Just naturally up and down. I think that's gonna live. I'm gonna do that same test with the rest and see what's going on here, but so far so good. Okay, we've got our 3-stone hone. For this, we're not going to get too fancy with lubricants. Oh, by the way, took all the head studs out. This one's really tight. So before I go and do something stupid with that guy, I want to make sure that it's going to be worth it. We're just going to use some PB in here. And we're going to start at the back where we had most of the water intrusion. Don't hit the webbing. Damn, quit hitting the webbing, Jared. I'm going to tell you right now, ladies and gents, we aren't in bad shape. Oh golly. Oh my goodness. We're gorgeous, you guys. It's a little dirty because we haven't really rinsed her, but nothing but stone marks. Not even staining. Let's get after it here. We're starting to look pretty decent. A little staining and through. Golly. I've never seen, I don't think, rusty cylinders hone out this nice, you guys. Look at this. We've got a little bit of staining, plus we're still just a little bit dirty, but all around here we've got one little line there. Nothing but hone marks. No pits. Very little even staining, really. Here's number 3. Number 3 was stuck pretty good. And here's number 4. Number 4 was the most stuck. Well, look at that little area right there. But golly, you guys. All right, so like I said earlier, we still have that little cavity where the distributor drive shaft gear goes down into the block, and so that bottom gear mates up to the cam gear. And the end of that, well, I'll show you again. It's not horrible. It's not like it's completely rusty, but it's not the prettiest either. So we're gonna see if we can't, well, find a way to get down into that, or at least look at it closer, probably with the bore scope. And then that's going to be our final determination. We're going to go ahead, flip the block over. We'll clean out where that oil pump snout went down into the block. But it's not fit to tolerance in that bore. It just had some extra gap around that snout and got all rusty. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to look down in the bottom of here, and then I'll bring you guys back for a final determination. But so far, you know, things are looking up for the little rusty little block that fought us really hard. All right, I think we're done for today. And neighbor shop dog Gypsy's hanging out. You know, Mackie rarely uses the bed, but Gypsy's got way more hours on that bad raid than he does. Here's where we're at. I'm gonna bring you back through. There's our quick little hone job on all the cylinders. It looks great. I only wish, and this is going to get steam clean, pressure washed tomorrow. So after that, it'll get just a little bit of flash rust, and then we'll go through and do probably a final hone, and then that's where I'll get some good cross hatching. The cross hatching now is not at near the angle it needs to be, but yeah, this is what was happening. We had coolant just dripping down. It was leaking out. These are coolant passages here, here, and here, and it was getting from there over to the holes for the push rods. And speaking of which, here's our bores for those. If you can kind of see down in there, it's rusty all around them, but they cleaned up super nice all the way through. And then on this side of the block, we went ahead and cleaned up the bore for the distributor. It looks super nice. And then here, you guys hang out there. We'll flip you over. Now hang on now. All right, and then this is the bore that the distributor drive gear or oil pump drive gear came out of. That bore is where this came from. That's ridiculous, but it cleaned up very easily again. And you know, I was worried about the tip hole, I guess, down in there. Well, it is drilled through. So we had another smaller sized brass brush that we did the same thing with the bigger one, snipped off the little handle curlicue end, put her in a drill, and got in there and cleaned her out. And everything looks really nice. Now, I'm going to straight edge the top of the deck. We'll clean up the bottom of the head, and we'll straight edge that just like we always do. But I've made a list for parts. You can see we've started cleaning off for gaskets and stuff. And yeah, we're going to make this engine run once again. I have no idea if I'm at an outro point or intro point or what. I know we're skipping over stuff because it's just a mess. The shop is full of stuff. I'm way behind on projects, and it just seems like I'm drowning a little bit. But we've got all the parts and pieces we need to put our little MG engine back together. The crank is in. It's down there. Camshaft is in. Oil pump drive is in. An oil pump and new strainer. Brand new strainer and brand new oil pump down there. We've got our timing marks now on this ride. What you do is, here, let me take this off. We got to put him right back on though, so we don't forget. You got, well, we're a little past top dead center, but you've got this guy and this guy. They line up. Then they have to line up with the center of the crank and the center of the cam. So you basically hold a straight edge here and give it just a little tweak clockwise, and they would be right there. This cam nut is torqued. We have to fold over this washer here, and then we'll be able to put the front cover on with our, putting this right back on here so I don't forget it. This guy, if with the F, is for front. So it goes on that way. Tensioner's on. Everything's happy up here. We're going to put the front cover on, and then yet this evening we're going to go ahead and stab pistons in this thing and button that up, and then we can put the pan on, and you know, maybe by 10-11 o'clock tonight we'll have something pretty close to a long block. That's the plan. It's about 8:20 now, but we should be able to just kind of get through this. So I'm going to do this front cover, and then we'll bring you guys back with some music for piston installation. I almost forgot. Well, I kind of did forget. Anyway, front cover's on. This is just on, so there's no locating dowels in this front cover. So what you do kind of is you put, so if you're going to use a little bit of sealant, use your sealant, but put it on loose. Put your crank pulley on, and then make sure that it's centered around the seal here, and then tighten this up in a crisscross pattern. Otherwise, if you put this on, tighten it down, and then jam your crank seal in, it could have moved just a little bit, and that front seal will leak. Now, we also have number one piston jammed in the number one hole already. Now, the nice thing about this little 4-cylinder is, once you got top dead center on 1 or 2, they're all lined up down there. So we can do all 4. We're just going to have to be a little careful as we knock 2 and 3 in. They're going to go all the way down into the bottom of their bore, and then number 4 is going to be up here at the top again. And there's enough room that we can go ahead, put caps on just the way it is, and torque stuff. These pistons are marked front, plus I stamped the bottom end of the rod caps. So we are ready to rock. We're going to dribble a little bit. We're going to run Rotella 1540 in this MG when all things are all said and done. So we're going to give that a little bit of schmoo there. We're going to schmoo our bearing. We're going to dribble some down onto the crank. And we're also going to dribble it around our piston. Smear that around a little bit. Make sure our rings don't move too far from where we want them. I'm just going to set that bad right in there. Somehow I dropped my ring compressor ring thingy. lift up just a hair. Press our ring and reach back around behind us. Pistons are in. Now I'll go over one more time and we can put our caps on. Again, we're going to smear them with oil. Well, golly, it's a couple days later alert, and I screwed the heck up. Pistons are in, and we put a ratchet on the crankshaft bolt, threw the front cover on, threw the balancer on so we get the front cover situated nicely for the seal, threw the ratchet on, and boy howdy, I couldn't get the engine to turn over by hand. We finally, after several hours, sorry about that, I'm moving my stool around so I can sit down and talk to you. Several hours of scratching my head, cursing. I think maybe 2 dad pops was all, and that's probably a good thing. We figured out the issue was with, and it's down here now, the number 3 rod was binding. You should be able to, when these things are, even after they're torqued, you should be able to come in here and see that little bit of wiggle. You should be able to get a little bit of wiggle in here. And it was bound up really tight. Now I thought maybe we had a bearing that was just not seated right. So we loosened up the cap, tightened it back down, spun it a little bit, tightened a little bit more. But every time these little guys torqued to 33 foot-pounds, every time we got there, it got really hot. And it was just in one spot in the rotation. And so I kind of started going down a rabbit hole, not gonna lie. There's no reason to have bent internals in this engine. But I really started to wonder if we didn't have like a tweaked rod or something. Because we did lean on this thing pretty hard to try and get it unstuck. But I've leaned on things a lot harder. Go watch that when we unstuck the 427. Yeah, that was significant. Much bigger engine though. Anywho, I'm rambling. And so the plan was for this morning, let's come out. I stamped these rod caps. The main caps are cast. The numbers are cast into them. And I stamped these rod caps, all 4 of them, as I took them out. I swear. I don't know. I just did. So when I went back together, because I was so certain of my own work, I didn't look for a factory stamping. Well, they're marked, they're stamped. The cap and the rod on this side. And I won't zoom you in there, but I will get my notepad. It's a 3-digit stamp. They aren't just 1, 2, 3, 4. But I rotated the engine with a lot of effort, and I documented those. Documented. I wrote those down, and here's how I stamped them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I made a little spreadsheet here. C is for cap, R is for rod, Number 1, 346, 346. Number 2 matches. Oh, number 3, 962, 773. 773, 962. I don't know how it happened. I really don't. They're still stamped. They were. I fixed it now. I crossed out the 3 and the 4 and switched them up. But we had 2 caps. The cap for rod 3 and the cap for rod 4 swapped around. That was enough to send this thing into a very unhappy place. Now I can jump on it with a ratchet, and with very little effort, she rolls right over. Let me see, I'll stop it at the top here, and we'll see if we can't show you. Yeah, there's the stamp number right there. So, the morals of the stories. You know, some YouTubers might just put the good stuff on here, and I've done that before. If I try something for the first time, sometimes I'll try it off camera, and then I'll get on camera, and I'll be like, hey, look what I figured out. If it's a tip or a trick or a shortcut or something. But the real world is we all make mistakes. And this is a pretty Bush League rookie, DTD, whatever you want to call it, mistake. But it is what it is. We figured it out. Everything's going to be fine. We didn't spin a bearing or score a bearing. You could tell number 3 was a little tight, but it's happy now. But how do we fix this moving forward? Well, a couple things. I'm kind of loaded up on jobs right now. The shop is over full. And if you go back to this rescue video for this MG, I made a determination right out of the gate. It's going to the front of the line as far as our projects go, so that we can get it fixed up, running, and marketable at the beginning of the summer here in the Heartland, and send it on to somebody else to enjoy, because I don't fit in the darn thing, and I don't want the darn thing. I do think it's really cool, but I don't fit. I'm 6'5", and this car is barely 10 feet long total. So I got that going, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just spelling out reality here. So we got that going on, and then at the same time, I'm comfortable tearing down engines and putting things back together, but I'm not a machine shop. I don't rebuild engines. That's not one of my main things that I do around here. And although I'm comfortable with it, I can't do it like blindfolded. I can't do it in my sleep. I should slow down, and moving forward, I'm gonna have to slow down and take a little more time and have a space. Number one, where as things come apart, we can put them in a better, organized fashion. And I was gonna go get a table, but I don't have room for a table in here, and that's my fault as well. So that's the first thing we need to do, is slow down. And this is just advice for anybody in this situation. Slow down, take your time, mark everything that needs to be marked. Now, luckily, the camshaft was rusty, the lifters were rusty, so we got a new cam in here already, and we've got new cam followers, tappets. They call them cam followers in this nomenclature for the UKs, the Brits call them that. So we don't have those numbered. We don't need to number push rods. So as far as keeping track of how things come apart and how they go back together, we had pistons, main caps, and rod caps, and bearing, and all the bearings, and all that's fine now. I've triple checked it before I turned on the camera here. So we're moving forward, but yeah, as we move forward, I'm gonna have to be more careful with taking stuff apart. Anyway, that's enough of me whining about it. I ain't gonna cry over spilt milk. We're gonna continue with this engine build. So we've got new oil pump drive shaft gear. We've got the same bearings. They all look really good. We've got piston rings. We've got a new camshaft down in there. We've got our timing is set up and it rotates beautifully. Now, we put our front cover plate on and with our little cork gasket here. And in the manual I've never had one of these MG engines torn down this far. In the manual it says, it indicates, go ahead and throw the pan gasket on here, and it kind of shows the guy, because at the front, between the front plate, engine plate, and the back engine plate, there's these two little cork gasket fingers that go in here, and then the pan gasket sandwiches over them. In the manual it just says throw the sump cover on, and it kind of shows the dude in the pictures kind of just had the piece of cork set in here. I don't want to do it that way. I don't think that's the right way. We can't get to the back of the block to attach our back engine plate with it attached to the engine stand. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it off of the engine stand. I'm going to set up, I got one sawhorse, oh, the other sawhorse is over there. We're going to set our two sawhorses up here, and we're going to set it just in this configuration upside down on the sawhorses, take our engine stand mount off, put our plate with our gasket and our rear main seal on, bolt all that up, and then we can put our engine stand plate back in, put it back on the engine stand, and then we can put our sump cover on, roll it over, and build our top end. But I want to be comfortable with this back plate going on first, and then we can kind of squish this cork just like we did on the front here down into this groove, a little sealant on these areas, throw the sump cover on, and be done. Okay, dudes and dudettes, there's a lot going on in the hood and in the shop, and I didn't vid you. In here, you can kind of see it here. There's one in the front too. There's from about here to about here, there's a cork gasket that goes in and fills in the area of the first and last main bearing cap. Kind of sort of like a Mopar big block type thing, but there's no side seals. It's really tight fit. And then there's a gasket on these plates that keep those side, cracks from leaking, which is probably a pretty smart design. And the issue why we wanted to put the plate on first is because then you can sandwich, the groove is rectangular or kind of square, and you can put the little square piece of cork in there and then squish it up this way with the plate, and then squish it down front and back with the pan. So we chose to put the plate on first. New rear main seal. The other good thing about this plate is they went with the one-piece rear main seal. So, I mean, for 1974, they had some good ideas in the old MG designer engineer room. So we've got 8 bolts holding this plate on. They're all torquified, and they do have locator pins, so that locates everything so the seal will be where it needs to be. And then I think there's 15, 18, 16, 14, somewhere there's something teen little bolts that hold the oil pan on. So that's all done. Oh, another note, there are 2 bolts that go into the very tippy top of the engine block on this plate. They are not within the bell housing. Notice how these are all kind of clean. These are not. That's because this circle here is the bell housing of the transmission. And the thing you need to watch is there's a little oval gasket that goes back in here, behind here. It doesn't seal a darn thing, but what it does, it makes sure that because there's a gasket in this area here, spacing this out ever so slightly, that this gasket also spaces out these top 2 bolts so that the plate remains completely flat and flush and in the right position against the back of the block. Okay, we are back on the engine stand, right side up. Pan is on, bottom end is done, back plate is on, and we're gonna end this one here. So the morals of the stories is we all make mistakes. Double, triple check your work. Maybe, especially when you're real tired, or maybe just go in at a reasonable hour instead of working until midnight or 1 in the morning, and you won't make so many mistakes. But it is what it is. Water under the bridge. That's the bottom end of the MG engine. Next video is going to be the top end. I'm going to start that as soon as I sign off with you here. So thanks for watching. Appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll see you on the next video.